Hello, group family, channel family. Tonight, we're going to talk about spooks, ghosts, goblins, whatever. I'm going to tell you a few of my own personal experiences because I know that this is a topic that some of you have experienced, some of you haven't but would like to, and that may get you into conflict in conversation with skeptics, family members. But what I'm going to tell you are my own experiences of living in a haunted house. So buckle up. You don't have to watch my face. You can close your eyes. Take this to bed with you. Here we go. So, I suppose it started in about 1983. My family at the time consisted of my brother, my mum, and my stepfather. And they had applied for new council properties in a town about 3 or 4 miles away from the town we were living in. And, well, we were granted one. So, I'm maybe 13, 14, and I remember the day we went to look at our new dwelling, and it was a brand new build, brand new road, brand new houses, 1980s prefab, 2-floored, sort of, everything is great in Maggie and soon to be John Major's world. So, we're driving to our new potential dwelling, and one thing I noticed just before we turn into this new road, there's a big massive cemetery. And I thought, okay, didn't spook me at the time. I just thought, interesting, okay, right, we're right near a cemetery, whatever. I never used to think about that sort of stuff. So we get to our number and we decide, yep, okay, let's go in. We're all excited. Let's look at our new house. So me and my brother, we go running straight upstairs to pick our bedrooms. And I noticed that the perimeter wall that separates the cemetery to our back garden, it's just that. It's just a wall. On one side there's gravestones. Next side there's my back garden, our back garden. Again, didn't particularly bother me at the time. I just thought, well, it's a bit close. I hope they've got their lines right. So we move in, and for maybe a couple of years, nothing happens, Excuse me. And then after a couple of years, some strangeness decides it wants to sort of manifest itself. So we'd be sitting downstairs in the lounge, and directly above the lounge would be my parents' bedroom. And on any given time, when my parents were at work, and it would just be us downstairs, bunking off school or whatever, watching MTV, we would hear running across the ceiling above us. Normally me, my brother, or a few friends. And I had a cat at the time. Yes, she was a big cat, but she was only like a domesticated sort of Bengal tiger. And she couldn't make that much noise. So it was strange. We just sort of accepted it as par and parcel. I didn't particularly think the word ghost, and I don't suppose neither did my friends or my brother. It was just, I don't know, maybe it was easier to say it was the cat. So it started off gentle like that, you know, it was not a big deal. And maybe after another year, the activity ramped up a little bit. And we used to have a toilet and a bathroom separate. And the doors started locking themselves, and the lights were being turned on, obviously from the inside with nobody in there. The taps would be running, and we would have to sort of pick the locks to get in and rectify the situation, you know. And I wasn't so naive or so chicken shit as to think, well, this is a little bit weird, yeah. How can this happen? Now, the toilet and the bathroom were on the above floor, and we used to get this feeling, if we used to have to go up there to deal with a door being locked or whatever, that as we would turn our backs to the said door or room and start to come down the stairs, there would be this intense, fearful feeling like there was some fiend behind you, you know, just about to jump onto you, and you know, it used to make you sort of leap halfway down the stairs, you know, just to get away and get it over with. Now the strange thing was, I had a lot of friends that used to come and visit, and they had the same experiences, but nobody ever spoke about it until one day where we all said, blimey, yeah, I get that as well. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So the doors started locking themselves, taps started being turned on. And then not long after that, personal items would start going missing. I had some jewellery. I'm not into jewellery now, but I had a few expensive watches and some gold rings, stuff. And I remember that one day a really sentimental, precious ring that my grandfather bought me went missing. Couldn't find it anywhere. None of my friends were thieves, but it just went along with one of the watches. And you know, my brain was a little bit wrecked by this. I'm thinking, would somebody steal it? You know, it was a hard thing to sort of deal with. But yeah, it went missing along with a couple of other items. Now, here's the weird thing. I didn't think it had been taken by a ghost or entity or anything. I actually thought somebody had stolen it. And I remember being downstairs one day in the lounge, and I'm sitting there, and I started thinking about the ring. And then all of a sudden, because the door was open from the lounge that went into the kitchen, I heard a noise like, I'm going to try and demonstrate it here, like if you drop a coin on a counter. That was a bit lame. Try again. That sort of noise. And something so certain in my mind's head. When you go out there, your ring, the ring that's been missing, is going to be on the counter. I heard it. I heard it drop through wherever it was, and it was dropped back through into my reality. And I went out there, and sure as hell there it was. And here's the thing, I picked that ring up. It was freezing, absolutely freezing. And here's the weird thing, I actually never wore it again. I won't say what I did with it, but I never wore it again. Just didn't feel right. My brother had some, after that, I mean, that's all pretty innocent stuff, right? And not too aggressive. But then after that, my brother had a couple of experiences. I think the most scariest one for him was where he was sitting in the lounge, and there were some glass ornaments that were brought back from Italy and Sicily, and these ornaments just flew across the room, shattered against the wall. One went across, one went up, and that was, that was enough for him. I mean, he was a young, sort of 14-year-old kid. So he went running out in tears. Because it was quite an aggressive move by whatever was doing this sort of stuff. And although we lived next to the border of the cemetery, after that there was an old people's home. So probably people coming and going, passing on every week. And another 50 yards from the old people's home was a crematorium, funeral home. So just like if you've got three of anything in your hand, no matter how you drop it, you can form a triangle. We had the cemetery, we had the old people's home, and we had the crematorium. And one day my brother was on his way to school, and I was still at home, and I was just about to leave myself, and I remember there was a pounding on the door, and I opened it, and it was my brother in tears. I said, "What the hell was wrong with you?" And he couldn't talk. He couldn't talk. He just, I'll tell you later. Just leave me alone. Eventually, when he did gather his wits and was able to talk, apparently what happened was he just walked across the top of the cemetery towards the old people's home, and there was an old lady in front of him, and she had one of these pull-along sort of trolley things, and he said, just for a second, he looked in another direction, and then his focus went back to this old lady in front of him, and he described her perfectly, like a blue sort of bonnet hat, long blue coat, like one of those pull-along trolley type things. And he looked at her, and half of her had disappeared. The lower half was gone. And as he looked up and saw that, the rest of her just folded in on herself. Now, you got to remember, this is a 14-year-old kid, yeah? They're not on drugs, they're not on drink. And when he came back, I didn't need any prompting. I could tell that something, had happened that couldn't get his head around. So, that was the probably the only actual real apparition. I didn't have any apparitions. I think the thing that probably really did it for me was I was on a telephone one day to a girlfriend, and this is before mobile phones. The only people that owned mobiles back then were like, company chairmen, and they were as big as fucking briefcases. Mobile phones just weren't a thing. We had one of those bleep bloop bleep bloop touch-tone type early, weren't even digital, but so I'm on the phone to one of my girlfriends, my girlfriend at the time, and her conversation cuts out. I can't hear her, she can't hear me, but what we can both hear is I don't know the actual name of the classical piece, I ought to, but it's do 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 do. Now every bar it went round, it got faster and faster and faster till it was just a garbled noise, and it was something trying to make itself known, to give a message. My God, my heckles are going up here, and they always do when I talk about this. You know, this, it just became a garbled noise. I put the phone down. For me, that although it wasn't physically aggressive, it felt more aggressive than anything else that happened in that property. So I chickened out, and I ran across the road to a friend's house, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm not going back in that fucking house. You're coming back with me if I do." So yeah, we both went back, and I called my girlfriend, and she was absolutely in tears. And her first words to me were, "What happened then on the phone?" Because you know, she used to come to my house pretty much every day, and she knew there was things, strange stuff going on there, and she was in tears. She felt it as well, and my cat, my poor cat, was just sent mental by whoever, whatever, how many ever things were going on in this house. She wasn't tortured, but she would, you know, she would know when things were going on. And in a way, she was a bit of a protector. And since we moved from that property, I've not really had anything paranormal. One or two things that could be sort of construed in with some extraterrestrial experiences. We'll talk about them in another time. But I'm just trying to tell you that all this happened to me while I was not drunk. I wasn't under the influence of pot or drugs. I was just a young kid, and yeah, it was real. It happened, all of it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you could call it. Ghosts, spirits, entities, dimensions. But there's something else out there that can move the world. And whether we'll ever get the answers or not, if any of you have experienced it, I would absolutely be so honoured if you could let me know. Maybe we can do an interview and talk. But there's a few spooky stories for you folks. Hope you enjoyed them. Scout 12, I love you all. Good night.